Hi, everyone. This is Amy Parvane, founder and CEO of Select Advisors Institute. Welcome to our Advisor Best Practices webinar series. As you may recall, our last webinar series was with guest Scott West, who spoke about fanatical curiosity leading to better client conversations in order to uncover more great opportunities. Today, I have asked one of my good friends, Jay Wampler of TD Ameritrade Institutional, to join us and speak about one of his expertise, which is about hosting more impactful client events. Why did I start talking about this? Well, as a sales coach and sales consultant to many advisory firms, I have seen a lot of advisors spend a lot of time, hours, and money on client appreciation events. However, the results are not as satisfying as they'd like to achieve. Who should listen to this webinar series today? Advisors who are thinking about upcoming client appreciation events and want to make them more impactful. Advisors looking to grow their practice organically through better client appreciation events. And advisors who have held client appreciation events in the past, but the results have not been as powerful as they'd like. Jay Wampler is a vice president for business consulting at TD Ameritrade, and what you should expect to get out of this webinar today are the following: best practices around client appreciation events to reduce the cost, headache, and increase your impact. Topics and ideas, as well as venues that work best, as well as the do's and don'ts around client appreciation events. With that, Jay, the floor is yours in order to talk to us a little bit about your expertise, research, and best practices.
Thank you, Amy. I'm really excited to be with you today, and it's a topic I'm extremely passionate about, and passionate about working with RAs in our industry moving forward. Too often advisors will say to us, an event strategy is something that we've spent a lot of money on in the past. We've had limited to poor results. You know what? I'm not going to do them anymore. They're just simply a waste of time. Unfortunately, they've either spent time on events that they've been hosting for years, such as a steak dinner or, let's say, wine and cheese, and they try some outside-of-the-box grand event that's really challenging to pull off with real results. So certainly after a solid event that's replicated over and over, we've seen better results incur. So what we would recommend, certainly when you're thinking about a high-impact event strategy, is thinking through something that's a good event that you can replicate and create a process over and over again. Ultimately, the one thing I would share with you is that firms that have been successful in this have been very intentional about their strategy, they've been very intentional about the process, and they've been very intentional about their implementation. And those are the three keys to the success of this program. Too often we've seen advisors just not practice this. They'll try one event, it fails, it falls flat, and they say, you know what, it's just not happening for us. But practice does make perfect. And the success we've seen from firms who have done this over and over again is maybe in the first event, second event, they close one or two pieces of new business, but as they replicate an event for a second, third, fourth time, they start to see those numbers double, and that's when they start to get really excited over the program. So let's delve in at a very high level as to an overview of this program. Certainly you can see the disclosures from TD Ameritrade Institutional, and let's go ahead and jump on in. So why high impact events? Really, certainly when we think about it from a client acquisition strategy. It's a way to grow your firm and identify your ideal client profile and work with the people you want to work with. It's fun, it's extremely non-threatening, and it's a good way to have an event that's around a shared interest, a shared topic that you can talk about for years to come. It allows you to reach new networks and cement relationships, certainly with your centers of influences, and obviously sort of your top 10 to top 20 ideal clients. It's building trust and having multiple interactions with the clients and prospects over and over again. We're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail. Certainly it develops client advocates. It can be a lot of fun, and as we think about the movement in our industry towards client experience, it certainly adds to a better client experience. So let's talk about the three different types of event objectives that are out there. First, there is the client appreciation event. That's the one we see the most often. Really, this should be a thank you only. This is just thanking your existing clients. You're not really trying to get referrals. It's just an overall client experience for your firm. It's something that should be introduced in the onboarding process of a new client, and as they become a legacy client, this should be something that you're doing ongoing with these folks to have multiple touches, create advocacy, and have them talk highly about your firm and spread a good word through social media. The second type that we want to talk about certainly is historically known as the prospect only. That's a little bit more your stereotypical mass marketing lead generation event. It's focusing on getting a big number of people, maybe 100 prospects to get to 10 leads to close one business. Kind of an old school way of thinking. We would tend to steer you away from that and focus a little bit more on the third area, which is clients and prospects interacting together in a non-threatening way. So a high impact event, certainly you can have a large number of folks. We certainly think a little bit more of an intimate number, one that you're comfortable managing, especially as you dip your toe in the water, is more impactful. We simply see more of the 6 to 8 to 10, maybe topping out at 15, and you focus on the same subset of people multiple times. Why do you do this? You do it because you're going to touch them multiple times. It's going to build that trust. It's going to improve your client advocacy. The client experience is lifted and allows the prospects to get really comfortable with you in a non-threatening, non-financial way. That certainly leads us into what we have created and built out as what we call our 6-step process to high impact event strategy. The first thing you want to do, Amy, really is to define that overall strategy. So let's say you're sitting down at the beginning of the year, you want to knock out the amount of money you want to spend towards high impact events throughout the year. How many clients do you want to gain through this type of strategy, and how do you back into that particular number for your return on investment? Too often we see folks that just kind of randomly pick a quarter to go after it. We certainly recommend having a strategy and at least hosting an event on an ongoing quarterly basis. It certainly adds to your ability to host this and be a little bit more impactful. And certainly if you have a client advisory board or key clients, it would be good to have them in that room to talk through what a great firm you are. Then you want to identify who can help. And when we're talking about this, you're really leveraging folks inside of your business. Do you have chefs, artists, authors, key doctors, athletes, folks that you can leverage internally so you can keep the cost down? We're going to talk a little bit more about event strategies moving forward, but just a quick nugget. We were working with a doctor once, an advisor went to this particular doctor, and the doctor's like, all my clients are talking about gluten-free this, gluten-free that, and he and the advisor decided to put an event together where they actually leveraged a chef who was with the advisor currently at a lower cost because that person wanted to get their name out, and the doctor invited all their clients, and it was a great way to leverage the synergy between the two at a very low cost. Step 3 and 4 are a little bit interchangeable. We put choose your event type here third. You can certainly create your event invite list before that. So what I would say here is if you already have a great event or something you're passionate about, or you know there's a certain subset of your clients that are interested in a topic or something cultural, certainly choose your event first and then create your invite list. If you prefer to kind of see, well, what are my clients like? What are their psychographics? What do they believe in? What do they value? What are they passionate about? Then certainly create an invite list first of your best 5 to 8 clients that have similar interest, and then choose the event around those particular clients. So those are a little bit interchangeable. Step 5 is defining and delivering this particular process. It really delves into the keys around the invite, the invitation, all the fine-tuning you want to do for the event, and then how you're going to deliver that and your follow-up strategy, which is crucial to the success of any high-impact event. I know when we speak with advisors, it really is quite concerning because we are a sales industry, and this is the area that we see advisors fall short, is wanting to follow up and close this particular business. And too often when I talk to advisors, they'll say, hey, if I can get in front of my ideal prospect, I could close that 8, 9 out of 10 times. How about shooting for 1 from an event or maybe 2. Those are really more the success metrics that we should shoot for here. And then finally, track and measure. Have someone hold you internally accountable, not yourself, not someone close to the event. Have someone else as a staff member, client service associate, someone who's going to hold you accountable to a follow-up strategy and track and measure that ongoing, because we can only know what we're doing right or wrong if we're tracking and measuring that. So key performance indicators would be critical at this particular juncture. Oops, let's go back and talk about the events here, a little bit of what we're engaging with, Amy. Just at a very high level, some of the event types we're talking about are cultural, health and wellness, recreational entertainment, charitable, and educational. I would certainly caution you to intertwine these with financial topics. We're seeing firms get away from that. People are really jaded about showing up to an event and then being talked to about financial security issues. They just want to come and have a fun, entertaining night with their friends and colleagues. They really don't want to talk about financial topics. Where we've seen people kind of add some kind of educational bent is around something unique. So maybe you have a subset of clients that are extremely into the outdoors, and so you have a survivalist who will come teach them, or parents and grandparents who are not particularly good at their technology skills, and so you'll have someone come from maybe a local Apple store to teach them about iPad skills. So think through some of the educational bent in a different fashion. Some of the screenshots you see here are certainly an art gallery. I would encourage you to talk with your local museums to see if you can get a behind the scenes tour, something unique that's different. The cooking series in the top middle, certainly this is an area that you want to have over 3 particular quarters, where you can have 1 quarter of the same clients and prospects who are working on appetizers. The next quarter they come back around their entree, and then the final quarter around their dessert. And obviously you want to have a follow-up strategy with gift giveaways, freebies, things that they're always going to remember you about, maybe a final chef night dinner with somebody who prepared the best dish. You can think really creatively about that. Certainly in the upper right, we see a lot of wine tasting events. Those are fabulous. You can certainly do scotch and chocolates. Beer tasting is very important. Again, this is a great series if you want to touch the same people multiple times. And we hear from advisors, they say, well, my clients don't spend a lot on wine. That's certainly fine. You can find great wines in the $10 to $20 range. It's a great way to raffle off gifts as a follow-up strategy. And it's really fun to taste different wines that maybe they're going to drink in their home. You can do it around different countries, different varietals. It's just get creative around these particular events. When we're talking about charities, I would caution you about doing your own charity, maybe doing something that's a little bit more generic. Habitat for Humanity, obviously we've shown here this is something where everybody can kind of get behind. They don't feel like they're being sold into your particular charity. And then we've touched on the educational bent, certainly in the lower right. As we move through, the key, as I mentioned, to a really successful event is your follow-up strategy. And why do I say this? Too often, the planning should start before the event on how you're going to follow up with your prospects and clients afterwards to get their feedback, whether it's through surveys, through calls, through meetings. And too often, we find that advisors fall short in this particular area. Then the day of event is critical. You need to have raffles, gift giveaways, ways to capture information on these folks to follow up. You need to have maybe had a dry run of the particular event to make sure everything is engaged and appropriately in place. And then certainly the post-event strategy can be fun. If we've seen folks with spa to give scented giveaways, luggage and travel giveaways, things where you're always touching that particular individual, and when they go to use that product or eat that food or they're traveling, your name is what's going to come to them because it's a sensory memory. So you're really trying to have some type of capture of the information to give away. So as we think about this as an expected outcome and how we want to glean success from this, add intention and direction to your strategy. Again, if you think you're going to accomplish event success by hosting one event, it's not going to happen. You have to replicate it multiple times. You have to leverage the folks that are inside of your business. And we're uncovering those key characteristics of that ideal client. There are things you should already know about them. We think about the demographics, but what about those psychographics, those passions, beliefs, values that those clients who have been with you for 15 or 20 years have? Do you know how to uncover those and think through those? Constructing the right questions to ask them about event strategy, and then how you're going to search who they're friends with is critical. And then you've got to capture that information somehow through surveys, through your CRM, to make sure you have that appropriately leveraged. Think creatively. You know, too often we hear people say, well, I don't have the money to do events. You can get very creative. There's a great thing out there. It's called Google. You can search anybody out there, and they can certainly help you to create whatever type of event you want. Get out of the old school event ideas and start to think creatively outside the box. The millennials that we're starting to attract think differently, and we need to think differently if we want to attract them to work with them moving forward. So try to get out of your own way a little bit. Be passionate about the events you want to hold. Think about leveraging a series of events. You can call it like a VIP package or something like that. Make people feel special. It was interesting, a firm I worked with once said that we had to stop our events because too many of our clients who weren't invited wanted to come to events. And I had the exact opposite reaction. Host more because your clients are actually clamoring to be more involved with you. Engage the five senses. It adds value. When you're thinking about your event, think about what you're touching as far as their hearing, their sight, their touch, their taste. All those things are critical to the success of your event. And then, again, the follow-up strategy that yields results. Think about it before the event. How are you going to strategize a follow-up? What kind of raffles, capturing information are critical. And then ultimately, folks, this is improving your client experience. There's a stat out there that says 89% of businesses are going to be competing on client experience moving forward. If you're not doing it, your competitors are. So thinking about an improved client experience, not only for our prospects, but our onboarding of our new clients to our existing legacy clients is critical. And finally, as I said in the beginning, Amy, just have fun with this. This should be a fun strategy that you should get everybody in your firm involved with, and just have a great time. Hopefully that covers a little bit of that, and if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to address those.
Thanks a lot, Jay. That actually answers a lot of the questions, and it actually addresses something we are very big on at Select Advisors, which is to always have a campaign, to have a reason to want to get back in front of your clients. And I can't think of anything better than an event where your clients could come to, but also invite some of their friends. So with that, thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to Select Advisors so I could connect you with some of the folks like Jay Wampler at TD Ameritrade. Thanks again and have a great day.